Hello and welcome to the development show number 14. I'm getting slightly better at counting now, which is really good. We're joined by Andrea Mason, the global voice, which we will get into. But Andrea, if you want to, you should quickly introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers, should I say?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Greg. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Andrea Mason, the Global Voice, motivational speaker certified under the mentorship of the legendary Mr. Les Brown, and your personal accountability coach, where I bridge the gap to where you are, to where you deserve to be, living your dreams and loving what you do. I am also a professional organizer, certified small business entrepreneur, and I am also have over 2 decades plus in the social work and psychology industries of personal and professional development. And I am ready and excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No, you're more than welcome. Thank you for your time. I think we might get into the psychology bit as well.
All right.
Something I'm personally quite interested in, so we can perhaps touch on that. But I want to start with the global voice.
Yes. Yes.
I know what it says to me, but where did that come from?
Well, Greg, it was a funny story. So I was enrolled in Mr. Les Brown's Power Voice Academy, and it was just after the world shut down. And I was like, what am I going to do? I have all this experience, all this knowledge, and I'm rarely on social media at that time. And all of a sudden it popped up on my screen. Are you going through it or are you growing through it? The words of Mr. Les Brown.
I think we all know that.
And yes. And so I said, well, I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to grow. I've been through it. Now I'm going to grow. And as I enrolled in his class, and then I've just met amazing individuals on all 4 corners of the world, like-minded individuals who live through their heart and passion and wanted to enhance the quality of life of all individuals around the world. And so after I had graduated, I started getting connections with individuals in podcast arenas such as yours, and TV and radio and interviews. And I was asked to do TV and radio in Africa. Wow. And I was just like, oh boy. Here I am going to share my story, completely transparent, vulnerable, and ready to share my life with the world. And it starts on TV and radio in Africa. And I'll never forget, I remember after I did that show, the individual had sent me, the demographics of how the show was going to go and asked for a headshot. And so I obliged. Next thing I know, popped up on my screen, global voice. Well, little did I know, and unbeknownst to me, by the end of 2021, I have spoken on every single continent, virtually, sharing my voice, my message and passion with the world. And it was amazing because I still remember that next evening, speaking with the family, and my family across the world saw me on TV, heard me on the radio, and was just like, were you going to tell us? Or was this just going to be something that you decided to do? And it just became amazing. And, we get a perspective of the world, of the different countries around the world, of their lifestyles, morals, ethics, values, and religions and creeds. But until you actually go there, you connect with the individuals one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Your whole perspective changes from the altered, possibly skewed perspective, that of the media. So that, my friend, is how I became the global voice. And I am owning it and being grateful and proud of that title.
Yeah, that is amazing. It is. I try not to think about it too much. Mm-hmm. The fact that we can reach so many people across the globe,
right?
And when you think, even back a generation, that really wasn't possible. It was only possible for a select few people. But now we're sat here, we're on different continents, and we're having a conversation, and people can be watching from anywhere in the world, at any time zone, and it's open and it's accessible to them. And I think we were talking slightly earlier when I was talking about the lives and difference between lives and pre-recorded is someone can drop a comment in today from, let's say, Africa, and alter the course of our conversation. And I think that is such a wonderful, powerful thing that can happen.
Absolutely. And it's been amazing because I've gotten to do amazing global contributions as well. I mean, I have been, chosen to mentor women of Africa, to graduate, and to be successful. And their energy and their enthusiasm to learn is just so amazing. And in Pakistan, I had engaged a couple of consecutive days in speaking to an orphanage of young children, and it's just amazing. And it's just like anything in the world, Greg. It's you have the tools, the skills, gifts, talents, but it's what you do with them that is so powerful. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's so many people that have the knowledge and experience that can help so many people and don't, for whatever reason, whether that is self-doubt or I don't know, or just kind of not exploring it. And I think that's a real shame, especially when we look at a platform such as LinkedIn that we're streaming to now, that as much as LinkedIn is developing into more social media, it is still very business based.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, to be able to share kind of business advice, business knowledge, business connections is huge. Everybody, I always say this, that everybody has value. Everybody has something that they could bring to the table. It's just with some people, we have to dig a little bit deeper and a little bit harder to find it and not give up on them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a few people in Africa as well with businesses, and I'm like you. I'm always amazed at their energy, their drive, their passion, and we have a lot to learn. They're a very up and coming continent at the moment, and whether you found the same or not, but I've found that kind of the business owners that I've helped, that everything is so local as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And it is so still community. And it's, one of the questions that they ask without asking is how do I serve my community better?
Yes. And it's just amazing the influence and the attention that they take to it, because they're looking globally on the areas that are making the headway and the progress and the success, but now they want to take it home, and how do they implement it in their own communities? And I think it's just amazing. It's just the energy and the frequency that people have of positivity that is going to elevate and empower and enhance the mode of action of how they want to take it. Because a lot of times we think we're alone in our thoughts, and how do we do the process? How are we going to make this work? But at the same token, it's what we were just talking before. We don't have to do it alone. We have to learn how to network. We have to learn how to be transparent. We have to learn to be vulnerable with learning about the areas that we need improvement upon. Because if we take the liberty that we want to make a difference, and we go about it in the mindset that we can do everything, that we're invincible, in the long run, that's when either self-sabotage or it doesn't work properly. And Mr. Brown has always taught us vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and awareness. And that's what I've learned. You know, I jokingly say on my videos, I'm a lone wolf because I just feel like a lot of individuals don't understand where I'm coming from or have the impact, the passion, or the knowledge. To each his own, not by any fault. But I don't know if I don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
And if I ask, I'm making the due process of elimination to saying, okay, they don't get it. I respect them for that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they know somebody else who can? You know, that cliche, you know, in the city, I know a guy, I know a girl. And that's what we have to take into consideration, because you won't know if you don't ask.
Yeah.
And if you know, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then there are correct ways of asking as well, which I think is
Right.
something that people don't think about too much.
Right. Absolutely.
I've got a great line at the moment, and it's a line that I've learned,
Okay.
and it's very simple. I'm working a lot on language at the moment and simplifying
wow.
language,
Yes.
and I find it absolutely fascinating how much we add into something that doesn't need it to be added to.
Yes.
You know, and just a simple question at the moment that I'm asking, and some of my connections might have had this question as well, and you know, it's as simple as, you know, I'd love to know where you are with everything right now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and there's nothing attached to it. It's an open-ended question. You can talk to me about what you want. You know, it's I've always set my stall out that, you know, with coaching, that I'm not selling coaching, I'm offering it, and that's important to me. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, if someone comes along and we have a conversation for 6 months and they never become a client, as long as they're walking away with some value. But it's how to get into that, and there are psychological blocks with asking questions, and the way that we ask them, and kind of moving, and you touched on a little bit with the entrepreneurial aspect, and that's going to take me down a different path. So we'll bring it back to the kind of the blocks. So what are some of the, you know, the bigger blocks that you think that we need to get over to be able to ask better?
Right. We have to understand that individuals are just individuals like ourselves. We are all emotional human beings. And what I've learned in the industries of social work and psychology, excuse me, one of my mentors, actually my supervisor at the time, says you could have the finest cuisine, but it's all about the presentation. And what he elaborated on is you can have a fine cuisine, the most elite, amazing, fresh, you know, ingredients. But if it's served on a dirty plate, it doesn't matter. It's about the approach, the presentation. And we're connections. That's what it's about. We're connections. When we all have the book of life, we all have a chapter of despair, frustration, depression, happiness, and success. Some may have a longer chapter than others. But when you realize that you may have the skills and techniques that is an area of an improvement that you can benefit, and that I can benefit from yours, then there's no question at all. I think what has happened is we have been so subjected to neglect, dismissal, rejection, and competition that we've lost the insight that you don't know everything and you can't expect yourself to do so. Perfectionism is just a word in the dictionary, being a perfectionist. But you show me someone who's a perfectionist I challenge you to do that. Because there's no such thing. There's progression towards success. And it's the journey that we take, the steps that we take to fail forward. But we get so focused on the end result, or we get so focused on what we want, could have, should have, would have, didn't, done, that when we just be in the moment, the gift of presence, the gift of perseverance, and most importantly, the gift of patience, that's when we're going to be impactful. That's when we're going to be powerful. And that's when we become interconnected.
I love that. Yeah, it's funny how, you know, we're fed so much, and I don't want hate off copywriters, but you know, we get told your copy must be this, it must be that, it was set out, and to me that then loses the art of conversation as well. Because, like you say, we're constantly competing. Where as much as we say, you know, how wonderful it is to have a platform that we can reach globally, everybody else can. So the actual market has become saturated. And, you know, a question that I get asked continually, and it's a question I really don't like. And it's generally people trying to sell to me, sell one thing. And the question is, well, what do you do that stands out? What do you do that nobody else does? And my answer is, I be me.
I love it. I just got
Nobody
chills.
else is me.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and you know, how many unique offers are out there? How many unique pieces of content? How many unique business models are there? There probably isn't any. Something has always been done before, and the only way that we can stand out is to be you. And it's something that unfortunately, it's taken me a while to learn.
Yes.
Because it's this message must be crafted this way, this piece of content must be crafted that way, and it's taken me a while to understand. And I think what did it is then I read it back and just go, that isn't me.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we need to encourage more people to be themselves and not worry about the mistakes, and not worry about the spelling mistakes, the grammar, the way that a message or a piece of content is structured.
Right. And it's so true, Greg, because it's just like the common phrase that we are accustomed to say. How are you? Good. How are you doing? Good. Nobody takes the time to really invest in answering that question. It's just a common courtesy of respect and routine, if you will. Just a quick thing with authenticity. I said, you know, we're all the same, but what makes us different makes us authentic. And you can't be a carbon copy of anybody else. So don't even try. And I remember taking Mr. Brown's course, and there was assignments that had to be done. And I remember preparing for them, and I would, you know, rehearse in front of my family, and they're like, you're not Mr. Brown. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you sound like, but you are talking in a way that I've never heard you, robotic and mundane and monotone. So they had asked me to, you know, kind of do some research on 3 motivational speakers, and one being a female, because for backstory, my upbringing, I was adopted during the cartel in Colombia, but when I came here to America, I grew up in a family of all male cousins. So I had a strong, you know, rugged side, if you will. And so when I looked at the female motivational speaker, then I was like, all right. So I took the original assignment, crumbled it up, threw it away, and I did from my heart. And they were said, that's who you are. And I remember in the beginning stages when I started doing YouTube videos, I was all prim and proper, making sure that my T's were dotted, my I's were crossed, and speaking eloquently. Not to shame anyone that does, but that's not my personality. And I came across and I felt rigid and not authentic. And I felt uncomfortable, stumbling over my words, making sure I was looking a certain way. And then when I said, you know what? The only way I'm going to be successful and comfortable is, like you said, being me. And so a myriad of my videos are not cookie cutter like they say, but they still have content, they still have engagement. But one day I'll be wearing a dress, another day I'll be wearing a hoodie, another day I'll be wearing, bright colors, because it's how I feel in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to embrace, the presence, that nobody's going to do it like us. And that's what makes it beautiful of the word abundance. It's abundant. There's so many different ways you can look at it. And the way the world is, it's minimizing that. It's minimizing that there's one way or another way. In regards to right and wrong, of course. But when it comes to imagination, creativity, and innovation, it's limitless. It's endless. And when we tap into our passions and taking pride of what we do, that's when we live through our heart. That's when we love. And that's when we begin to build a legacy that will outlive us with the lessons, losses, and love that we have to give.
Yeah, I think that, when we try and carbon copy, and I think, everyone's been guilty of it at some point, you actually you put yourself into a competition
Yes.
with everybody else that's doing that, and there will be one person that started it, and no one will ever be as good as being them as they are. And we have to remember that. And we find our voice, and it's okay if that voice changes over time as you learn and grow and develop. And I know what you mean about YouTube videos. And I very early on, a few years back, I took some advice off people about image and branding, and and what do you want to present. And a lot of my early kind of live streams and things, you'll see me in a shirt, and it was just like, and even kind of my social media picture, it was very smart. And I'm just like,
Yes.
I do love wearing suits. I feel very comfortable in them. But is that truly me 100% of the time? And I'm just like,
And that's when
Yeah.
and that's when
on.
you go the route that I go. You wear what you wear based on your mood, because there has been an attachment to a suit. Prestige, knowledge, experience, and respect. But who's to say being you can't attract and emulate that same feeling?
Yeah, be the leader, not the follower.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
there's someone that I'm fascinated with at the moment, and I don't put people on pedestals, and I don't I don't dream of being a particular person, but I'm fascinated by certain people and what they're doing and how they do it. And this will kind of, we'll get onto the kind of entrepreneurship, and and I'm fascinated. And at the moment, the person I'm really fascinated with is Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes, I knew you were going there.
and
Absolutely.
not what comes out of his mouth either.
No.
It's what he's done and what he's achieved.
Yes.
And I think it's 13 businesses he owns.
Yeah.
And you hear about maybe 2 or 3.
Right.
And he's still very genuine. He's still who he is, and he's still very take me or leave me kind of guy. And if you're going to leave me, it's not going to affect my life. And yeah, and it's not that I want to be like him. I'm just fascinated at the level of self-assurance.
Yes.
And I think it's not ego. It's not.
No, not at all.
It's self-assurance. He knows who he is, and
Right.
you either work with me or you don't.
Right.
Take it
Yeah,
or leave it. And you
absolutely.
know, and I find that absolutely fascinating. And I'm slowly
Yes.
unraveling his behind the scenes.
Yes.
Um, so you were talking about female motivational speakers.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I'm not going to judge your age, but I can imagine that when you were back, kind of in college and growing up, there weren't
Right.
that many around. We could
No.
probably name, half a dozen or a dozen right now
Right.
that are
Right.
very prominent now, but many years ago there weren't. And I've just been trying to think, who's kind of around that
Yeah.
20 years ago or so. There
Right.
were some public figures,
Right. But not
um,
as prominent. Not as
but not as
prominent where you
prominent.
can say
Yeah.
their name off the top of your head.
And there
Absolutely.
were either celebrities using their celebrity status for a platform, or there
Correct.
were politicians.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
now we have the likes of picking one off the top of my head, like Brené Brown come through,
Hmm. Right.
that has
Right.
come through with her story.
Right.
She
Right.
wasn't a celebrity to start
Hmm.
with.
Right. Yeah.
So who did you kind of look up to? Who were
Oh
your
man.
kind of
Well, during that exercise, I'm going to butcher her name, and please forgive me. I think it was Alicia Shabazian or something like that. And she's in the compilation of when I started this journey with Mr. Brown, with, Wayne Dyer and Eric Thomas and, all Mr. Tony Robbins, Mr. Bob Proctor, God rest his soul, you know, but she was in that like compilation, and she was just, because there's different levels and different styles of speakers too. You have the ones that are the powerful, they can just, their voice is voluminous is where it hits the back room. But then you have the ones that get to the point of Mr. Brown. He's not boisterously loud, but he's powerful,
Mhm.
and then you have the Eric Thomas, that is the more boisterous level, you know. So yeah, so I mean that was the one woman that came to mind, because I just something about what she talked about really took a toll and resonated with me.
Mhm.
And so when I listened to the two other individuals, and then I was advised to listen to a female, her name popped up in the feed, and I was just like, yes, okay, I get it. So I kind of took all of their methods and then adapted my own into that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we do. When I was talking about, what makes us kind of unique, and there's no unique things. It is learning, and it is taking in what you learn, what you understand, what you can put into practice, and
Right.
taking those elements of what suits your personality, what you feel comfortable with, what you don't, and dismiss the things that you don't.
Absolutely.
Um, I talked about Gary Vee, and I say it's not what comes out of his mouth, because I can watch a 45-minute video
Right.
and take one thing away from it,
Right. Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know, but
And
but you
it's that
through.
self-awareness that you had mentioned, about the self-awareness and self-assurance that he brings when he comes into a room. Like, okay, you don't have to like me. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to
Mhm.
educate you, to give you experience from my personal perspective, and whatever the takeaway is, to each his own, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because when we talk about entrepreneurship, I think that entrepreneurship is sometimes very misunderstood
Yes.
as well. Because I've had the word entrepreneur in my mind ever since you said something
Mhm.
about right at the beginning, and you were talking about, we feel that we have to do everything ourselves. But I
Right.
think the entrepreneurship spirit drives that as well,
Hmm.
because it is the I want to learn, not I have to do everything,
Right.
but I want to do everything because this is where my love and my passion is.
Absolutely.
I want to do it all myself because
Right.
I enjoy it. And
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think that very much, entrepreneurship is sometimes misunderstood that it's a collection of businesses. So to be an entrepreneur, you must have several businesses.
Yes.
And for
Absolutely.
me, an entrepreneur is someone who loves business
Mm. Right.
and
Right.
different aspects.
Right. And that's what it is about the journey of entrepreneurship is, for me, I want to learn as much as I can. So when I understand it, I analyze it and I accept it. Now, when I'm ready to have a team, have, people that, have a little bit more knowledge and savvy in it, I already have the foundation that I'm not going to put it upon somebody in the areas of expertise and then it not be a reflection of me.
Mm.
Or on the other side of the coin, be taken advantage of either,
Yeah.
because that's
And
also an unfortunate experience that is very lightly spoken of, because
mm,
there are people who are salesmen and women, and then there's people who are businessmen and women, and
mm,
there are people who are entrepreneurs who are a mixture of both, but with passion, and that doesn't dismiss the titles of the others, but that's what they're trained to do. That's what they're looking to do. That is
mm,
their skill set that they want to achieve and acquire. And for an entrepreneur, at least speaking for myself, yeah, I can do these things. Sure, there's a format and a template, but let me learn it first to see if I even want this as part of my business. Let me
mm.
see if this aligns with me of what I'm saying, what I'm portraying. And you mentioned before, building my brand and, having my name attached to it. I want to make sure that I'm saying yes to myself first
Mm-hmm.
rather than saying yes to somebody else before me.
And I think when you have a certain level of knowledge that you can have the right conversations and ask the right questions before it's passed along. I mean, I always bring it back to kind of home DIY.
Yes.
Now I've tiled, I've laid floors, I've done some plumbing. I can't do it as well as a professional, but I
You have the
know
ability.
enough to know when someone is doing a good job, or or they're certainly putting across that they're doing a good job. And I think that when we take that, I mean, we were talking about websites earlier. That
Yes.
I've enjoyed building my own. I've enjoyed learning it. So
Hmm.
for someone to come and build me a website, it has to be far and beyond the
Right.
things that I'm capable of doing myself.
Absolutely.
And I
And
think
then, sorry.
that's where we drive excellence in business as well, by being
Yes.
able to do it to a certain level and then saying, actually, if you want me to pay you or you want to come and work for me, you have to excel far beyond what I can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just what happened with me. I created my own development from grassroots. I loved the content, I loved the information. But when somebody came and offered me, and like we had mentioned before, they did a good job round one. But then when I shared what I did, they exceeded what I was capable of doing, but
Mhm.
really put the personality, put the passion, put the mission in it, because they said, well, okay, we'll do it, based on a conversation and a few sessions. But then when I showed them what I did and we got to engage and, like you had mentioned before, have conversations, then I was I was blown away, because it was beyond my level of
Mm.
expertise in that area. And I think when we have the capability to realize, for certain things, certain tasks, topics, knowledge, when we come to a crossroads, as you have mentioned, we have to say, okay, it's okay to ask for help,
Mhm.
because they might need something that you're good at, but you don't know if you don't ask. And to piggyback what we were talking about before, Craig, was I wish they taught more of the approachable method in networking, in business, in communications, rather than let me see what the angle is. Let me see what the intention is. And if you have heightened self-awareness and assurance, absolutely, you can weed them out and you can thread them out and do a process of elimination. Okay, this is just for a sale, or this one genuinely wants to connect. But when we learn to take the barrier of what it's called and just put it as a conversation with another individual, I don't know about you, but that's when the most beautiful and long-lasting relationships result into.
Yeah, without a doubt, I can tell you about so many people in my network and what they're up to and what they're doing. And these will people who will never ever be clients of mine, but it doesn't mean that I shut the door on that conversation.
Absolutely.
At all, because having an interest in people, we learn. I remember many years ago, kind of learning about Muslim culture and not necessarily the ceremonies, but the kind of the core beliefs of it and things like that I would never have learned until I started having those conversations and genuinely asking because of a genuine interest.
Right. And one of the things that I keep in mind, especially, with children or, anybody that I'm connected with, you don't know if you don't ask. And what do you have to lose if you've had nothing in the beginning? And I think when we have that mindset that at least you tried, at least you made an effort, that's going to propel you to kind of say, okay, what about somebody else? What is somebody else? And when I connect with individuals, if it doesn't work out, again, I'm just like you. I don't close the door because who knows, down the road, I may need somebody looking for someone in that area. And you utilize your connections and your networks as, yes, connectivity, but also as outsourcing if you are unable to provide the service or need that someone's asking of you. And those are the individuals, those are the relationships, and those are the connections that are remembered, that are everlasting, and that are genuine.
Do you think that this is one of the biggest roadblocks that kind of entrepreneurs and small business owners face when trying to either grow a business or set a business up, or certainly over the last couple of years where it's been quite difficult, that people have maybe had success in the past and then sit and wonder what's actually happened?
Absolutely. I feel it's a couple of things. First, it's the fear of rejection and failure. Second, it's I don't want to burden people, as some people are genuinely, even the go-getters, even the rugged ones, even the ones that have flat affect and just business mindset and, have a different approach. It's pride. I'm building a business and I've taken this liberty to take this risks that past left traveled to do what I want to do, but now I have to ask for help. Are they going to laugh at me now? See, I told you couldn't do it. Are they going to say, I knew you were going to, I was just waiting for you to ask for help. But these are all the false beliefs of our past, of individuals who have doubted us, the naysayers, the non-believers that keep running up into our heads. And a lot of entrepreneurs, it's within their homes, within their families. And if I ask someone, my family's going to realize I can't do this. And the only person you have to compete with, Greg, is a reflection of you from the day before to be better. And when we learn that it's a journey of evolution, entrepreneurship is something that's amazing, innovative. And when you take that opportunity to be brave enough, what I love saying this because my mentor said this to me. She said, what is the worst that can happen? Now, sure, some of us at certain times we can go down a rabbit hole, but what's the worst if you ask for help? They say no? Okay. Be brave enough to follow up that question after they say no. Well, I trust you. Do you know somebody in that arena that I can reach out to? And their eyes, believe you, I've seen it. Their eyes, their mindset, their heart opens up. Wow, you do trust me. It's not just about being weak or vulnerable. It's about saying, I'm looking to you as a skill set that you have stronger than that I'm trying to acquire. If you are unable to do it, do you know somebody who will? And I would challenge you, sometimes 9 times out of 10, they'll change their answer. Because again, that ego strikes in, well, wait a minute. If I ask Greg and he says no, and then I say, well, Greg, do you know someone? Some people's mindset will be, well, wait, if I send Andrea to Gary, then I'm not good. You know what I mean? So it's about the intention, the mindset, and the perspective.
Yeah, it's the way that I'm trying to put this into order. So it's not, so we can feel very vulnerable or we feel weak by asking.
Right.
But what makes us feel like that is the perception of the way that someone answers. Correct. Now, if we can get it in our mind that their answer is actually the reflection of them, not of us, it makes a difference. I was told something many, many, many years ago. And I was told, I really can't remember what it was. I was asked to do something and I was speaking to someone, I don't know if I can do this. And they said, have they asked you to do it? And I said, yes. And they said, do you think they've asked you so you will fail? Oh. And I said, well, no, because it's quite important. Right. And they said, so they must believe in you.
Yes.
So by you not doing it, it's the reflection of your own doubt, not the reflection of their confidence in you. Yes. So when we do reach out for help, what we're saying is, you know, your words, I trust you enough to be able to ask. And if you don't know, I know that you might know someone that can.
Right. Absolutely. And I had that conversation this morning with someone because it was just their perspective. I said, well, the same thing that person said to you. Well, you have this perspective, but they came to you anyways. And it just changed the whole mindset. Because again, if we don't face our past will continue to chase us and overrule us. And that's also taps into the healing power of forgiveness. What individuals, incidences, and occurrences have happened in our lives to cause the blockade, the barricade, or the hesitation. And when we are able tap into the psychology component, which I married with social work, when you understand why people do or don't do what they do, then your awareness will then be heightened.
I always find it, we talk about, the people we surround ourselves with.
Right.
And it was actually a conversation I was having, I think on the last live, about conversations are exchanges or connections. And unless you're asking or you're helping, you will never know whether your relationship with that person, on what footing it's on.
Right.
And I've had it in the past where people have said, oh, can you just do this for me? Or can you just look over this? I value your opinion. Can you do this? or I've just got this done, or can I pick your brains over this, or whatever it's been. And I've gone, yeah, that's fine, absolutely fine. And then that day that I've reached out and said, actually, can you help me with this?
Mm-hmm.
And then got nothing back.
Mm-hmm.
You know
That's
where you
frustrating.
stand.
Mm-hmm.
You know where you stand with them. And I'm not saying that you should stop helping them,
Right.
but your expectations of them has then changed. And you
Yes.
can actually look at how much of you invest into
Mm-hmm.
them.
Right. And that's very powerful, Greg, because all these times, especially with my upbringing and being a victim of abuse and bullying, it just boggled my mind. I'm here helping you. I'm here. I'm there. I show up. I'm a woman of integrity and passion, and I ask you for one thing, and it's like either no response or I don't have time. What? What? Wait, what? And then you kind of get defensive at first,
Mm-hmm.
but then you get hurt because your expectations of others has been of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also plays with your ego. I'm not going to ask for help because I'm probably going to get shut down every single time. But we are human nature. We are of human nature. We do want to help people. But we have to make the decision, the assessment in who we ask. And my family always says, watch their behavior. Don't listen to what they do. Don't listen to the words that come out of them. Watch them. Observe them.
Mm-hmm.
See what they do. Do their actions reflect what they say? Do they practice what they preach and preach what they practice? And it's also the mindset of a people-pleasing mode that you want to avoid conflict. But when you have the awareness, when you have the acknowledgement, okay, I've asked this person, they declined. Okay, I get it. Ask them again. It's kind of like that old thing, fool me once, shame on me, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And then if you go 3 times, then you're just a glutton for punishment in my mind. But, you keep trying. You always have faith that hopefully they'll change their ways. But that was one of the hard obstacles I've learned during this is feeling, okay, we're all in this entrepreneur mindset. We all want to save the world. We want to heal everybody. We want to help people. We want to have everybody heighten awareness. And you look around and it's crickets.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, if they ask you, you show up. But that also ties back to what you said before. That's the reflection I want you to emulate. I'm here for you. I show up. And if I can't be available, I'll let you know immediately. But if I don't have the information, we're not finishing this conversation without a resource that I can outsource you to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I believe in, because I don't know everything. I have my fair shares of struggles and tribulations and wins. But at the same token, I'm not going to lie to you, let alone lie myself, putting myself in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand, like you said in the beginning of the show, our brand, our name is attached to it. We are building a legacy that will outlive us. What do we want to be remembered for? Not how do we be remembered, what people are going to judge and say, but what are we going to be remembered for?
Yeah, you're right. When we look at people like the late Bob Proctor, that it's his name and his legacy will live on, and it's still living on now. And we all like to think that we knew some of his values, some of his messages, without ever meeting him, because they were so widespread. And if he was trying to be like somebody else, then we would remember the words, but not who spoke them. We would remember the philosophies, but not the source that they came from.
Right.
And I think it's so important. I think sometimes that, you know, when we talk about, you know, everything's got to come from within. I'm going to put a strange image in your mind now, and
Okay.
I sometimes think of us as these kind of strange alien-like creatures where we have lots of kind of tentacles coming out of us,
Okay.
you know, and these tentacles are the ones that reach out to people,
Mhm.
and sometimes they might be chopped off,
Yeah.
but it's the tentacle that's chopped off, not the being, not this
Right.
strange alien life form. And
Right.
I'm trying to think of a better description than that before I release it to the world. But
I
it's
understand what you're
like,
saying completely. It's like a lizard that loses his tail. You haven't
yeah,
lost the concept of the lizard. You just lost that
yeah.
attribute, that
Maybe I'll go
trait,
down the
or what
lizard.
have you.
I was thinking more of an octopus with 8 legs,
Octopus. Okay.
and they can
Yeah.
lose a leg. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll work on that before I release it out to the world. But yeah, we have to
Yeah.
remember that, you know, when we do reach out, and
Yeah.
especially as kind of an entrepreneur, that you can't do everything as much as you want, and it drives the passion. At some point, you have to reach out to people, and okay, it might get chopped off occasionally. Your tentacle might get chopped off occasionally, or your tail if you're a lizard, or, you know, sorry, I've just thought worms. If you cut a worm in half, they go both opposite directions. Anyway, I shouldn't have brought animals into this.
It's
No
okay.
animals were harmed in the making of this show. I think we should put that out there.
So
I think this might be the first show I've had to put a disclaimer out there.
I'm
But
honored to be part of that on the disclaimer show.
but we have to remember that it doesn't change who we are, as long as we know who we are at the
Yes.
core.
Yeah.
That we remember we don't have to, and if you reach out and someone says no, I'm not going to help you,
Right.
you know where you are with that footing. It doesn't mean that actually the next person you ask is going to
Right.
say no,
Right.
or the person after that is going to say no,
Right.
and like you say, we never know people's personal circumstances as well of why they are saying no.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think the other important thing to remember is that if someone's saying no to you, you won't be the only person they're saying no to.
Correct. Absolutely.
And we think we have to remember that, though it depends how big, you know, that the question is, the ask is, that, you know, we can take it quite personally.
Right.
And I think that especially if you're struggling,
Mm. Yeah.
and
And I think
depends on the level that you're struggling, to how personal you can take that rejection.
sure. And I've taken it a different level too. I've raised the game in, I appreciate your time. Would you mind letting me know why? Take that risk, and if they say, you know what, it's just not going to work out, at least because sometimes they might, be able to let you know. Not that it's your entitlement, but be brave enough to ask. And honestly, if they say no and the next person comes in, it's kind of like that, that story that they say, well, you're at the right place at the right time, and that's pretty powerful too, because if there has to be some circumstances or situations that have paused it that you may not be ready for, or the universe in some weird way saying, not now, but wait, what's behind door number two? You know what I mean? And if you have a lighthearted perspective of that, that'll heal it a little bit too. And yes, the late Mr. Bob Proctor played a prominent, saved my life actually, role. I had suppressed a lot of feelings and emotions after the loss of my mother, and I just kind of went to that workaholic mode, just grinding and grinding, and I had ended up in the hospital for over a week. They didn't know what was going on, and it was all suppressed anger and frustration, and lack of knowledge. And the one segment, just a testimony to him, was, I watched The Secret, I studied the law of attraction, and The Health Secret, spoiler alert, really saved my life. So just to pay homage to him, he really, I wouldn't be here, to be quite honest, if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, the law of attraction is amazing.
So powerful. It's so amazing.
I need to get into it deeper. I really do.
I'm on the next level now. It's just so amazing. And if we could just everybody get on board, I just don't think they understand the power, how awesome this place would be. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It's something I definitely need to get into a lot deeper. But yeah, we can suppress feelings and we suppress emotions, and there's a lot around trauma that the body releases the trauma when it needs to, and we need to be aware of that and listen to our bodies more. Otherwise, what will happen is what you described, that suddenly the body won't be able to hold it anymore, and it will release it and it will overwhelm. One of the issues with kind of entrepreneurs as well that I see a lot is burnout.
Yes.
And I think that part of that reason is something that you've mentioned, that we go into that workaholic mode to block it out. And I know that I'm guilty when I'm in a hole. I know I have two choices. And those choices are, I either accept it and do nothing about it, or I grab a shovel, a spade, and start digging my way out.
Right.
And I'm not saying that my instant reactions is to fight.
Right.
And I might go a bit grumpy and a bit moody for a couple of days while I wallow in self-pity. But I know that there's only one way out of that hole. And that is to fight out. And I think that, when we're fighting on many fronts, you go into that workaholic mode because you think, this is how I solve this problem. This is how I do it. And, we've already touched on one of the ways, and that is to reach out to people and ask and say, and be honest and say, look, I am in this situation at the moment. I don't have the time for this and I don't have the time for that.
Right.
Could you or anyone else help me with this, even on a short-term basis?
Right, absolutely.
And I think that communication needs to be there better, and it needs to be the other way as well, that when we say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have the time because I have this going on myself.
Right.
You open a conversation and you never know that person that's come to you and said, Andrea, can you help me with this? And you've gone, I'm really sorry, I'd love to, but at the moment I've got this going on.
Right.
You never know. They might say, actually, I know someone that might be able to help with that.
Yes. And that's the beauty of it. That's the most amazing part of it. Because again, we are humans. We don't want to burden others, but then we're wallowing in the quicksand, and it's kind of like a fight or flight. Do I fight, or do I just take flight and just go ghost? And when we allow ourselves to be aware of our emotions, go through the emotions. Don't suppress them. Go through them and say, at this time, and what I say to people, I would love to, but right now, the way I work, I'm all in or not. Because if I can't give 100% to you, I am not being fair to you, nor myself. I'm not giving my best effort. And that's, really what it comes down to, that we have to learn to embrace our emotions, but at the same token, effectively communicate and listen with one another. Communicate to be understood, to learn, but listen to absorb and reflect. And we're just instant gratification, immediate satisfaction. Just, can you do it now or not? I'll find somebody else. When you take a moment and say, all right, this is the area that I need help in. Who do I know in that industry? Who do I know with that skill set? And who do they know that if they don't have the time? But be honest with yourself. Don't try to learn it because you're going to put more pressure on yourself. And I've heard this so many times. If I learn the SEO, the technology of the component, I lose my craft. I lose my creative side.
Mm.
Well, you know what? Get the basics, or sit down with someone, dedicate some time, half hour, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever you have. Say, look, I know you are an expert in this area. Can you just give me the lay down and the layout of what the basics are? And then at least you have at ease and closure to it.
Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk, bring him back in again. And
Yes.
I'm sure it was Gary. And he said, dedicate 50 hours to it.
Yes. Yes.
That's all you need. That's all you
10
need to
minutes a day
understand.
per
What you
week.
need to understand is 50
Yes.
hours. Not to become an expert, not to, be able to sell that skill, but to get the knowledge that you need. All you need is 50 hours.
Yes. Absolutely. It was funny. A good friend of mine, he's a son of a warrior. He's just, he's overcome adversity, and he's just an amazing gentleman. His name is Dr. Nelson Beltashar. He said, there's full-time workers that work 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week. But then you have the entrepreneurs that work 100, 200 hours a week, but society portrays it as another way. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. You can make your own time. You can make your own schedule. You can sleep in late, have fuzzy slippers, what have you. And they're like, yeah, no, it's not like that. Not like that at all. My family would come home and I'd still be grinding. And they're like, it's 7 o'clock. I left you at 7. I said, yes, I am learning it. I am loving it. And I'm doing everything I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's also another skewed perspective. I hear so many young children today, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. Yeah, sit down right here with me for a week and let me know if you still want to do it. And that's what I tell people in the developmental world. With your children, young adults, 5 key steps. Create a vision. Learn what it takes to do that skill set. Ask somebody who knows it, live and follow a day in the life in that person, entrepreneur, apprentice, or an intern. Then see what it takes to invest, not time, but time, money, your health, your wealth, what you look for, and then master it. You take those 5 points, then you found your passion.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's that old. It's one of my favorite quotes. I don't know. I think it was unattributed to anyone, but it was, I gave up the 9 to 5 to work 24/7.
Yes.
And I absolutely love that quote. And it is, and it's 8 p.m. here, and and I've still got, I'll still work after this, but it's because I love it, and it's learning, and it's knowledge, and it's just fascinating. I love the whole kind of the business aspect. And I think that if you don't have that in you, then don't think you can be an entrepreneur. Don't think you can become a YouTube star, because that hour video that you put up is probably the product of 4, 5, 6 hours work.
Yes, absolutely.
With the promotion of it, with the tax returns, with everything, the editing, the networking. Don't think that hour video is going to take you an hour and a half to make, because it's not. That isn't you need to love. I use that term loosely. You need to love that tax return form.
Right.
You need to, and it's part of what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, you're right. To kind of sit down and talk to someone who's done it and say, well, actually, what goes into it, and don't forget, I think that with entrepreneurship as well, that you're investing emotionally a lot.
Yes.
You will hit more roller coaster rides in your life at the beginning than you ever will working for somebody else.
Absolutely. And if you go with it the way I went in with it, I loved what I did. I enjoyed the social work and psychology realm, then dabbled and elevated to the medical, holistic, and wellness fields. I loved it. But I didn't really want to live up other people's dreams. What were my dreams? What do I want to do? What do I love doing? I love connecting and talking with people. How could I take what I've done thus far and make it now to something that is beneficial, impactful? And when you start doing that, that doesn't happen overnight, like we said before. Learn what it takes. And I think, one of the things also is, our son is young, but he mentioned he wanted to be a scientific chef. And we were like, wow, yeah, sure, okay, cool. And a pilot. But we sat down with him and enrolled him in chef class. What is it like to be a chef, a sous chef, And I think the more parents, mentors, coaches, entrepreneurs who have young individuals, like Gary Vee says, go out and enjoy what you do. Do it. Yeah, textbooks are great. Credentials are great. But, I was a product of, I did the experience before I did the degrees. So I knew what I was walking into. And then, some people just do the high school, graduate school work. And at my time, when I was doing this, when individuals came out of grad school, they were like, okay, well, what's your experience? Crickets. And, so find out what you love. Why do you love it? What do you enjoy doing that? Mr. Brown says, what do you enjoy getting up every day where you can do it and not get paid for it and still love it? That's where the heart comes in. That's where you build a legacy. You're building a life that you love. And everybody, no matter what age, creed, background, lifestyle, it's never too late. It's never too late to start.
And I think that, you touched on it, that you have to love it. You don't, as an entrepreneur, we joke about working 24/7 and that is the reality. But like you say, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
You go, you can come to the end of something and go, oh, I've got this to do next. And then that enthusiasm is kind of renewed. Oh, I've been looking forward to getting this particular done. A big part of mine is kind of writing articles and newsletters and things like that. And I kind of go, oh, great. I can do this now.
Yes.
Okay, it's midnight, but if I can just get this done.
It's like Christmas every moment based on the areas that you enjoy,
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I got this person to talk to, or I'm on this show, or I get this topic to bring up again. Yes. It's that energy, that frequency that is going to elevate and emulate to everyone. Absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, no problem.
And you are offering a free complimentary session as well to anyone that's got through this far.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, a 30-minute complimentary session, 1-to-1. So definitely grab your cell phones. On the screen, you'll see my email address is am.pressplay, and type in the title of this segment, or keep it simple. You could put Greg Ward, so I know where you came from. I'd be looking forward to connecting.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be awesome. Thank you. We'll drop that in some of the comments as well on the social media platforms that we're on.
Yes,
which would be great.
Absolutely.
Are there any kind of parting words of wisdom? We've had a lot of wisdom already, and I will be watching this show back and taking more notes than I have mentioned at the moment. So is there any kind of parting words of wisdom or anything you want to kind of leave our viewers with?
Yes. So I'm a diehard Disney fan. Walt Disney World. Anything your heart desires will come true. And so just a little bit to understand. I came from nothing. Second chance at life. 11 pounds, 11 months into the Americas on a plane. Unconditional love. I want you to remember this. Through the toughest times, miracles are made. If you choose to press play, plan life according to you, success and happiness are on the other side. But life has its trials and tribulations, and in the end, triumphs will be won. So remember, every single second, you have a choice. You have a choice to take the pen in your hand and write your own story. And no matter what you do, follow your heart and not the herd nor the hurt for success and happiness from on the other side. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank
truly.
you, Andrea. And thank you to everyone who's supported us again. Obviously, these live shows wouldn't go out without the continued support of our viewers. So
Absolutely.
no, they probably will. I know what I'm like. But yeah, no, I just want to be grateful and kind of thank Andrea for your time this evening. I know you're very busy, so thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for watching. And we will be back at some point. Can't remember when the next one is, but yeah.
Just stay tuned. That's the cliffhanger right there. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I need the Looney Tunes kind of ending going. I'll work on that one. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.